Chapter 1396, The Stronger Party Wins. Tang Xiu had 3 Supremes under his command, with the others all in the perfected Golden Immortal stage. Hence, they sliced through the enemy ranks like a sharp blade and killed hundreds of them before anyone from the Myriad Sword sect realized it. Beams of sword light flashed by along with afterimages of the swords, leaving behind a foul wind and a rain of blood. By the time the experts of the Myriad Sword sect realized it, Tang Xiu's party had massacred close to 1,000 people already. However, most of the deceased were actually ordinary immortals, as well as Earth immortals and the weak celestial immortals. They had only managed to kill 2 of the perfected Golden Immortal stage experts until now. Who are you all? North Sword Bel Espion roared as he brought his innate natal immortal sword out and glared at Tang Xiu's party as if they were his nemesis. He was just an inch away from coming out victorious, but these experts had suddenly popped out of nowhere and began killing his sect's members, so this made him deeply anguished. What made him ever more furious was the fact that although the other side only had 10 people, they actually had a total of 3 Supremes. This simply made him feel like running away with his tail tucked between his legs. Tang Xiu didn't answer North Sword Bel Espion. Instead, he looked at the bruised Supreme Pristine Spring and shouted, "Supreme Pristine Spring, we can reminisce later on. Let's team up and get rid of all these shameless disciples of Myriad Sword sect first instead. What do you say?" Supreme Pristine Spring never expected that their pristine immortal Confucianist sect would ever receive reinforcements. Although the other party numbered few, they were all experts with shocking strength and even had 3 Supremes among them. This allowed him to see the hope for the pristine immortal Confucianist sect's survival. "You have my gratitude for helping us. My pristine immortal Confucianist sect will definitely repay this great favor later on in the future. Let's team up, then. These crooks of the Myriad Sword sect must be exterminated at all costs, even if I end up paying for it with my life," Supreme Pristine Spring roared. Dozens of perfected Golden Immortals from the Everlasting Palace observed the sudden turn of events from another location. The old man who led them sighed after hearing Tang Xiu's and Supreme Pristine Spring's exchange. It seems like the palace master was right about it. Nothing is definitive. The circumstances indicated that the Myriad Sword sect would win without a doubt. Yet, the sudden appearance of powerful enemies barred them from achieving this. They even have 3 Supremes among them, so it would be hard for the Myriad Sword sect to exterminate the pristine immortal Confucianist sect even if all of us help them, Grand Elder. What do we do, then? One of the perfected Golden Immortals asked respectfully. The old man sneered and said, "Myriad Sword sect is akin to a dog that we have raised, so we obviously cannot let them suffer such a huge loss here. Hence, we will be helping them. If you aren't able to kill those enemies, you must ensure that the Myriad Sword sect's losses are as low as possible. Charge ahead." Half a day passed, and no matter whether it was the pristine immortal Confucianist sect, the Myriad Sword sect, or those forces who had come to profit from the situation, all suffered disastrous losses. However, the burden on the Myriad Sword sect master, North Sword Bel Espion, was lesser because he had the Everlasting Palace's experts helping him. He directed the battlefield in such a way that their party gradually drifted farther from the pristine immortal Confucianist sect, and prepared to evacuate covertly. "Attack!" A loud voice came through from behind. Apotheon Bella and Obsidian Immortal Father had arrived with nearly 100 perfected Golden Immortals in tow, and were killing their way through from afar. Damn it! Where did they come from now? North Sword Bel Espion cried out in alarm. He could sense that out of the nearly 100 experts attacking, 2 were Supremes, while the rest were all perfected Golden Immortals. North Sword Bel Espion had lived in the immortal world for over 10,000 years, yet he had never heard of any sect having so many powerhouses. The perfected Golden Immortals of their Everlasting sect only added up to less than 50 members, and although the Inner Pill sect had more of them than their Everlasting Palace, even their numbers didn't cross 60. Tang Xiu laughed out loud at this moment. "You're finally here. Kill them all for me. Spare none of the members of Myriad Sword Sect and their scoundrel allies. Friends of the pristine immortal Confucianist sect, please continue killing them if you still have the energy to do so. However, go back and heal your injuries if you are severely injured. Kill them. Even Supreme Clear Spring had been frightened by the array of experts that had arrived. However, after hearing Tang Xiu's words, he immediately realized that these people were the mysterious experts' men. And what followed after that was a bitter massacre. After Apotheon Bella and Obsidium Immortal Father rushed over with nearly 100 perfected golden immortals, the battle turned into a one-sided massacre. The lives of tens of thousands of immortals were harvested like grains, and blood rained across the skies as they collapsed one after the other. Eagle, Old Sycamore, Supreme Pristine Spring, and Obsidium Immortal Father, a total of 4 Supremes, besieged the sect master of the Myriad Sword Sect. As a result, North Sword Bel Espion was only able to resist their offense for an hour before succumbing to their attacks. Even his immortal soul didn't manage to escape and perished under the attack of Eagle's offensive artifact. None of the enemies, including the dozens of experts of the Everlasting Palace, managed to escape and were slaughtered clean. The tragic scene stifled everyone's senses. Tang Xiu arrived before Supreme Pristine Spring, and after seeing all the injuries on his body, he remained silent for a moment before saying the following words, "I won't give you a medicinal pill, but I can give you and your pristine immortal Confucianist sect an opportunity. The only question is whether you all desire it." Supreme Pristine Spring asked, "What opportunity?" Tang Xiu slowly said, "Although I cannot guarantee that you will be able to cross the tribulation and attain godhood, I can ensure that you will at least be able to become a late-stage Supreme and obtain the qualifications to challenge the divine tribulation. The disciples of your pristine immortal Confucianist sect will also experience an explosive increase in strength, and there's even a chance that a few Supremes might appear from them." Supreme Pristine Spring looked at Tang Xiu with shock and asked in disbelief, "How is that possible?" "Unless a god helps, that's." Tang Xiu smiled faintly and said, "I'll take full responsibility for saying this to you, I'm a god." Supreme Pristine Spring looked at Tang Xiu with disbelief. After a long moment of silence, he slowly asked, "Your Excellency has saved my pristine immortal Confucianist sect from the throes of extermination, so you have my utmost gratitude for that. My pristine immortal Confucianist sect shall remember this favor till the end of times and do our best to repay it. However, may I ask what to call you?" Tang Xiu smiled faintly and said, "I'm the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, the Emperor of the Great Tang Empire." Supreme Pristine Spring asked in amazement, "So, you're the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor who saved my sect's Dao Master Qingfeng?" Tang Xiu nodded with a smile. "Indeed." Supreme Pristine Spring pondered for a moment and then asked, "Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, what price would my pristine immortal Confucianist sect have to pay to obtain all that you have mentioned?" Tang Xiu answered honestly, "The pristine immortal Confucianist sect will have to come under my Great Tang Empire, and you must become my Great Tang Empire's protector." "That's..." Supreme Pristine Spring hesitated for a bit. "My pristine immortal Confucianist sect is in the Pristine River Immortal Domain while your Great Tang Empire is situated in the Immortal Lyceum. The distance between us is too large. Do you intend to move my sect inside the range of the Great Tang Empire's immortal domains?" Tang Xiu stated faintly, "Why not? Your pristine immortal Confucianist sect would have been exterminated if it weren't for our aid. This is a chance for your pristine immortal Confucianist sect to reform and start anew. If I'm not mistaken, the enemies we killed didn't just consist of the Myriad Sword Sect. It also consisted of dozens of perfected golden immortals from the Everlasting Palace. Do you think that the Everlasting Palace wouldn't take revenge on you alone if you were to continue staying here?" Daoist Pristine Force, the sect master of the pristine immortal Confucianist sect, was unwilling to pay allegiance to the Great Tang Empire initially. However, his expression changed after he heard Tang Xiu's words. After going through a struggle in his mind, he finally looked at Supreme Pristine Spring and said, "Grand Elder, The great Tang Heavenly Emperor is right. All forces of the immortal world know the myriad sword sect is the hunting dog of the everlasting palace. As we have killed the myriad sword sect master and so many of the everlasting palace's perfected golden immortals, there's no doubt that the everlasting palace will target us. If we continue living here, we will face another battle of sect extermination, so we should join the great Tang Empire. Supreme Pristine Spring pondered for a long while and finally said, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, this is a pretty significant matter. I need to discuss it with the other elders of the sect first. If all of them agree to it, our pristine immortal Confucianist sect wouldn't mind coming under the great Tang Empire. Fine. Tang Xiu smiled faintly and returned to the group of powerhouses of the great Tang Empire. He then took 100 jade bottles out, each of which contained 10 drops of god blood, and handed it over to each of the perfected golden immortals quietly. After that, he communicated with them via a voice transmission solemnly. No one is allowed to leak the news about the god blood outside. Any violators will be tried with the crime of treason and dealt with accordingly. All the perfected golden immortals revealed shocked expressions after hearing about the god blood. After that, Tang Xiu handed over a jade bottle to Apotheon Bella and Obsidium Immortal Father each and sent a voice transmission to the both of them. I have given 10 drops of god blood to each of the perfected golden immortals, and I'm giving both of you 30 drops of god blood each with the hope that your cultivation will progress to the next step. Also, I'll be going into seclusion to make pills once we return to the great Tang Empire. If you have become a late-stage supreme by the time I have finished refining the divinity attainment pills, I shall give you one of them each so that it can aid you a little in successfully crossing the divine tribulation. Apotheon Bella and Obsidium Immortal Father glanced at each other. They trembled in excitement after hearing about the 30 drops of god blood and the divinity attainment pill, as both were unquestionably precious treasures to powerhouses at their stage. Their chances of attaining godhood would increase exponentially with these two items in their hands. Xiu. Where did you obtain so much god blood? Apotheon Bella inquired via voice transmission. Tang Xiu replied back, I obtained a god's corpse back in the Nifa's abyss. It's practically a fully intact corpse, so I have a lot of god blood within my hands right now. It contains at least several million drops of god blood inside it, and even a single hair of the corpse is a rare treasure in the eyes of the immortals. This will allow our great Tang Empire to develop rapidly, and it won't be long before we can take revenge on our enemies. Apotheon Bella gasped in surprise. Even though she had a strong mental fortitude, Tang Xiu's words had really startled her at the mention of an almost intact god's corpse. This was undeniably a treasure vault within the eyes of immortals. It would allow any force to increase their strength exponentially if they exploited it properly. Chapter 1397, The Beautiful Daughter-in-Law and the Parents-in-Law Meet. A while later, Supreme Pristine Spring arrived before Tang Xiu and said with a bow, after a discussion, the decision all the elders of the pristine immortal Confucianist sect arrived at is to join the great Tang Empire. As long as you honor the arrangement you mentioned previously, our pristine immortal Confucianist sect is willing to integrate with your empire and serve you. Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and asked, Do you wish to know why I took the risk of offending the everlasting palace and made such a huge fuss by bringing a huge entourage to save your pristine immortal Confucianist sect? Supreme Pristine Spring answered, This has indeed perplexed me till now. I hope you can dispel my doubts, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Tang Xiu smiled faintly. My wife can be considered the disciple of your pristine immortal Confucianist sect's Tao Master Guai. If you wish to know my real identity, summon Tao Master Guai over here. Supreme Pristine Spring was taken aback and asked in disbelief, All the disciples of my pristine immortal Confucianist sect are men. Where would we have a female disciple? Tang Xiu smiled faintly. You'll know once you summon Tao Master Guai. A few moments later, Tao Master Guai, riddled with injuries, flew over towards Supreme Pristine Spring and Tang Xiu. He revealed a slightly excited expression on his face when he saw Tang Xiu and greeted him respectfully. Greeting to you, star. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Tang Shou smiled faintly. You're my wife's teacher and someone on the same side as us, so there's no need for such courtesy. Help me explain things now. Dao Master Guai revealed a slight smile on his face and said, Grand Elder, we both have ascended to the immortal world from Earth. And before my ascension, I left an inheritance behind there, which landed in the hands of Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Hence, she can also be considered a member of our pristine immortal Confucianist sect. Supreme Pristine Spring came to a sudden realization and gazed somewhat peculiarly at Tang Xiu as he asked, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, your wife ascended to the immortal world from Earth? Tang Xiu smiled faintly. I also ascended from Earth, and the tens of thousands of cultivators of my great Tang Empire have all come from Earth as well. You could even say that Earth is my origin for my ascension to godhood. Supreme Pristine Spring, which dynasty did you ascend from? What was your name when you were back on Earth? Supreme Pristine Spring replied with a smile, I ascended to the immortal world in 479 BC, and from what I recall, the official name of the state was Lu back then. As for my name, I went by the clan name of Kong and the given name of Chiu, while my courtesy name was Zhongmi. Master Kong? Tang Xiu cried out with alarm. Supreme Pristine Spring asked in amazement, You actually know me, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor? Tang Xiu was left between laughter and tears as he replied, All Chinese people on earth are aware of your name. You have been venerated as the founder of Confucianism by countless people of China for the past 5,000 years and are hailed as a great philosopher and educator. TSK. I never expected that I'd get to meet such a great personage of the past. Supreme Pristine Spring smiled and said, These are events of the past from when I was still an ordinary person, so they aren't worth mentioning. Tang Xiu sent him a voice transmission, Supreme Pristine Spring, remember my former title. Star Cultivation Great Emperor of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. You are, Supreme Pristine Spring's pupils contracted, and a glimmer of disbelief flashed past his eyes. He cried out in alarm, almost as if he had seen a ghost, Didn't you perish in soul and flesh? Tang Xiu sent him another voice transmission, Don't divulge this as I'm only willing to tell you this because you are already a supreme. However, you must remember that my enemies are the Inner Pill sect and the Everlasting Palace. I didn't die and merely started anew once again. My purpose in founding the Great Tang Empire is to exterminate the Inner Pill sect and the Everlasting Palace, as well as the Myriad Sword sect. Supreme Pristine Spring realized his intentions and looked at Tang Xiu even more respectfully. He then bowed towards him once again and said, Henceforth, you're the person our pristine immortal Confucianist sect will serve, Your Majesty. All members of the pristine immortal Confucianist sect will address you in this manner from now on. All right. Tang Xiu patted his shoulder and said, The identities of your pristine immortal Confucianist sect's disciples are too sensitive right now. Hence, I need all of you to enter my heavenly abode, so I can take you to the Great Tang Empire. Also, I need all the members of the pristine immortal Confucianist sect to cultivate in seclusion for the next 300 years, and not appear in any region of the immortal world. 300 years later is the time when we go into battle against the Inner Pill sect and the Everlasting Palace. 2 days later, Tang Xiu and Eagle made their way towards the immortal domains of the Great Tang Empire, while the others resided within the heavenly abode. A few days after they had left, a piece of information began spreading through the entire immortal world like wildfire. The entire pristine immortal Confucianist sect seemed to have disappeared, sect and all, and the sect master of the Myriad Sword sect, North Sword Bel Espion, had perished in battle along with tens of thousands of experts from the Myriad Sword sect and a few dozens from the Everlasting Palace. Immediately afterward, the leader of the remaining 6 perfected golden immortals of the Myriad Sword sect, Supreme Lord Windsword, declared that the Myriad Sword sect was closing its doors for the next 1,000 years, and wouldn't get involved in the matters of the immortal world for that duration. Over the next 6 months, tens of thousands of the Myriad Sword sect's disciples began disappearing one after the other, leaving no trace behind. Even the sect grounds of the myriad sword sect had become desolate and empty, bereft of the shadow of even a single person. Outside the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, Great Emperor Jing was seated cross-legged within a palace. After seeing the endless fury on the ashen-faced zither demon Joyao, he said indifferently, "Don't let the anger get to your head. Have you still not realized that an invisible adversary is targeting our inner pill sect and everlasting palace secretly?" Zither demon Joyao expressed his fury. "Since you have realized it, why don't you tell me who is so reckless to actually dare provoke our two elite sects?" Great Emperor Jing said, "It's not just provocation. They have already begun targeting us. Do you know how many powerhouses our two sects have lost within the past 100 years? Zither demon Joyao replied in an enraged voice, "What's the point in counting them? My everlasting palace has lost more than half of our powerhouses, and even my Supreme Myriad Thunder got killed by someone." Great Emperor Jing said, "Although the casualties of golden immortals and perfected golden immortals that my inner pill sect has suffered hasn't passed the halfway mark, we have had a lot of them too. Hence, it's of utmost importance that we find the string puller acting behind the scenes, and fully understand what kind of forces they possess by any means. We can then deal with them and put an end to the source of all these troubles." Zither demon Joyao regained his composure and asked calmly, "Did you ever think that perhaps this string puller has some relation to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, or the enigmatic four sacred palaces?" Great Emperor Jing said, "It shouldn't be the four sacred palaces. Although the four sacred palaces are pretty enigmatic, I have already figured out their history after investigating them for so many years." Zither demon Joyao asked in amazement, "You have figured out their history? Who are they, and just where are they located? And why are they helping the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect?" Great Emperor Jing stated, "The four sacred palaces actually have a deep link with the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and were actually a single body, 100,000 years ago. I don't need to tell which force was the strongest in the immortal world back then, right? So, you shouldn't find it strange when I say that the current palace master of the four sacred palaces is Sky Exterminator Old Beggar." Zither demon Joyao's expression changed, and a murderous look appeared on his face as he said gloomily, "So, it was actually that old fool. Tell me, where are the four sacred palaces?" Great Emperor Jing shook his head. "I haven't been able to find its exact location, but it shouldn't be within the immortal world and is probably inside some heavenly realm in the far corners of the immortal world. Don't worry, though, since we will annihilate them the moment my inner pill sect discovers their exact location." Zither demon Joyao stated gloomily, "The four sacred palaces have brought us huge losses over these past few hundred years. We have to find their location and exterminate them at all costs." Great Emperor Jing looked at the continent that was the base of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and sneered. "It won't just be the four sacred palaces. We will also eliminate the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect as well. If I haven't guessed it wrong, the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect will only be able to hold on for another 1,000 years, and the instant that moment arrives is when they perish." Great Emperor Jing's expression changed all of a sudden, prompting him and Zither demon Joyao to disappear and appear before the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect's protection array momentarily. "Who is it?" Great Emperor Jing observed the two figures approaching them and asked loudly. Apotheon Bella let out a burst of peal-like laughter. At the same time, Sable Fiend Scorpio, who had reached the supremacy stage just recently, laughed out loudly. Then, Apotheon Bella said the following words, "Great Emperor Jing, Zither demon Joyao, it's good that you two are actually here. It seems like our luck is pretty good. We hope that you can remain here forever, right until we bombard your immortal bodies and crush your immortal souls." Great Emperor Jing took his immortal saber out when he saw the two female supremes appear and swung his saber at the two of them. "I'm Apotheon Bella. I request you to open the Grand Formation so we can enter the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect." Apotheon Bella grabbed Sable Fiend Scorpio and used her light wings to their limits to evade Great Emperor Jing's fierce attack. Then, she rushed inside the protection array of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Star Tears looked at Apotheon Bella and Sable Fiend Scorpio and said immediately, "Sect Master, they are on our side. Allow them inside quickly." Supreme Star Soul showed no hesitation at all. Apotheon Bella had assisted their Vermilion Bird Holy Sect several times over the past several hundred years, so she was absolutely trustworthy. As for the other Supreme, although he didn't know her, she had accompanied Apotheon Bella here, so he felt relieved after hearing Star Tears' words. Whoosh! Whoosh! Apotheon Bella and Sable Fiend Scorpio sensed the small gap that had appeared in the protection array, and rushed inside with lightning-quick movements to arrive before Supreme Star Soul and Star Tears momentarily. Who arrived? Supreme Star Radiance came rushing over from a distance and appeared before everyone quickly. Greetings to you, Supreme Star Radiance. Apotheon Bella and Sable Fiend Scorpio knew that Supreme Star Radiance had very high seniority, so they greeted him immediately. Supreme Star Radiance revealed an excited expression after seeing Apotheon Bella and sighed. Apotheon Bella, we have been looking forward to seeing you arrive for a long time now, unlike your battles outside. All of us have engraved the aid you have provided our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect over the past several hundred years, in the depths of our hearts. Apotheon Bella answered respectfully, "You're embarrassing me, Supreme Star Radiance. It's something I should have done." Saying so, she looked towards Supreme Star Soul and revealed a somewhat hesitant expression on her beautiful face. Chapter 1398, Rapid Development. Apotheon Bella recalled what Tang Xiu had told her before she made for the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. She glanced at Supreme Star Soul, and after a few moments of hesitation, she greeted him with a cup of her fists. Bella greets father. Star Tears couldn't hold back her laughter. An embarrassed expression cropped up on Apotheon Bella's face as she whispered, "He told me to address you that way." Supreme Star Soul's lips curved up into a smile as he laughed out warmly. "Good. This is a very nice appellation. I'm quite satisfied with it. So, Bella, you can address me this way from now." To escape from the embarrassment in her heart, Apotheon Bella suddenly said the following words, "Let's find a quiet location to talk. I have an important matter to tell you." Since Apotheon Bella and Sable Fiend Scorpio had risked their lives to enter the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, Supreme Star Soul knew they must have done so for a very important matter. Hence, he brought the two of them to the meeting hall of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and activated the array inside the hall, to isolate it from the outside world. Then, he inquired, "Bella, what's so important that Xiu sent you here? Also, since the two of you have come over, does he still have a powerhouse protecting him?" Apotheon Bella took a jade bottle out from her interspatial ring and handed it over to Supreme Star Soul. "There are 3 reasons Xiu sent me over to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Firstly, it was so that Sable Fiend Scorpio and I can guard the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect just in case the Inner Pill Sect and the Everlasting Palace succeed in breaking the protection array and attack all of a sudden. Secondly, we came here to bring over a large number of medicinal pills and divine weapons that would be a great help to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Thirdly, it was to hand over the thing inside the bottle." Supreme Star Soul felt excited. "We have a total of 5 Supremes on our side now that the two of you have arrived here. So, it would be hard to say who would win even if they decide to battle us right now." Star Tears shook her head. "Elder brother. Although we indeed have 5 Supremes on our side, you know that the enemy consists of not just the Inner Pill Sect, but also that person. His battle strength is very overpowered, so it would be hard to kill him even if several Supremes besiege him, and there's even a chance of suffering some losses." Supreme Star Soul calmed down and nodded silently. "That's true. Bella, what's inside this jade bottle?" Apotheon Bella saw that Supreme Star Soul intended to open the cork on the jade bottle, so she rushed to stop him. "Father, don't open the cork right now. The bottle contains the blood of a god, so every single drop of it's very precious. You must make sure to contain its aura when you take out the god blood from inside later, or else it would bring us needless troubles if someone nearby were to sense it. What did you say? Supreme Star Soul's body stiffened as he directed a gaze full of disbelief at Apotheon Bella. Star Tears clutched Apotheon Bella's arm suddenly and asked with a shocked expression, "Bella, this jade bottle has god blood inside it? How is that even possible? I haven't remembered it wrong. The Myriad Saint sect obtained a few drops of god blood 100,000 or so years ago and suffered the assault of countless powerhouses of the immortal world. Even dozens of Supremes had attacked them back then. At least 10 Supremes fell during this battle along with many perfected golden immortal stage powerhouses, and the nearly 100 drops of god blood were obtained by the powerhouses of the surviving forces. It's rumored that the amount of god blood has been on a declining slope over the past 100,000 years, so the number of forces that still have some god blood left can be counted on one's fingers. Bella. Where did Xiao obtain the god blood from? How many drops are inside this bottle? Apotheon Bella's lips curved up into a smile as she looked at the 3 pairs of eyes that were observing her fixedly. She burst out in laughter and said, "There's a total of 100,000 drops of god blood inside it." What? Star Tear's eyes turned wide open. She snatched the jade bottle from Supreme Star Soul's hands instantly and checked its contents, with her spiritual sense once she had sealed the bottle's mouth with her power. Her body trembled when she realized how many drops of god blood the jade bottle really contained, and an irrevocable shocked expression appeared on her face. It was really too shocking to Star Tears, as she had never thought that so much god blood would appear within the immortal world. The amount was just too terrifying. Supreme Star Soul snatched the jade bottle back. After checking the amount of god blood present inside the jade bottle, he had gone wholly numb from the shock and asked Apotheon Bella with a glazed expression, "How?" Apotheon Bella chuckled. "Xiao went to the Nifa's abyss some time ago and obtained an almost intact god's corpse from there. It has a few million drops of god blood at the very least and may even have as many as 10 million drops inside it. He prepared these 100,000 drops for the powerhouses of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and asked me to bring them over, so please make use of them to the very best and ensure that all the powerhouses above the Golden Immortal stage make enormous progress in their cultivation." After saying this, Apotheon Bella took out another thing from her interspatial ring and handed it over to Supreme Star Soul. "Father, this is a piece of god bone. Xiao said that you are quite gifted in the field of artifact refining, so he asked me to bring this piece of god bone over and told me to tell you to refine it into your ideal immortal artifact." A god's bone? Supreme Star Soul clenched his fists tightly, and his voice brimmed with excitement. "I could barely produce an 8th grade immortal artifact even with an abundant amount of precious resources in hand. However, I'm fairly certain that I will be able to produce a 9th grade immortal artifact with this piece of god bone in hand, and perhaps there's even a chance of producing a quasi-divine artifact. Xiao is indeed worthy of being my Supreme Star Soul's son. With so much god blood in hand, the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect will undoubtedly experience an explosive increase in strength and become at least twice as strong." Supreme Star Radiance remained silent all the while. Although he felt quite excited as well, he still felt deeply concerned and asked the question which kept bothering him the most yet again, "Bella, does Xiao still have the protection of a powerhouse now that you 2 Supremes have come over to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect? The Great Tang Empire has been developing too fiercely in the past 100 years, so a few of the elite powers might show hostility towards them. What if?" Apotheon Bella said with a smile, "Even without the 2 of us, the Great Tang Empire currently has 4 more Supremes, namely the Obsidian Immortal Father, Old Sycamore Eagle and Supreme Pristine Spring. Even if some of the elite powers covet the wealth of the Great Tang Empire, there's no need to feel worried about it since these 4 Supremes are protecting it. Moreover, according to the plan which Xiao has drafted, the Great Tang Empire will have at least dozens of Supremes within the next 300 years. Star Tears, Supreme Star Soul, and Supreme Star Radiance, all of them drew in a cold breath after hearing this. They never imagined that the Great Tang Empire already had so many Supremes right now. If they included Apotheon Bella and Sable-Fiend Scorpio in it, the number of Supremes in the Great Tang Empire came to a grand total of 6. And if they added the 3 Supremes of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect to it, the number of Supremacy Stage powerhouses on their side totaled up to 9. 9 Supremes! Even the strongest force in the entire Immortal world, the Ghost Sect, just had a total of 4 Supremes. Supreme Star Soul took a deep breath as he could already see hope in obtaining revenge. Thus, he said in a deep voice, since Sho wants to wait for another 300 years, all members of our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect will make haste on improving our cultivation within this duration. And then, 300 years later, we shall eliminate all the enemy forces who harmed our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect over all these years. In the Great Tang Empire. Once Tang Xiu had returned to the empire, he passed down a series of orders and entered seclusion to cultivate. All the upper echelon of the Great Tang Empire also chose to fade into the background around the same time, and the entire empire had turned exceptionally quiet. Time flitted by, and in a blink, 240 years had passed since the time Tang Xiu had returned from Nifa's abyss. He had absorbed thousands of drops of god blood over these 240 years and had used countless kinds and amounts of cultivation resources. As a result, his cultivation shot up rapidly and experienced tremendous growth. Boom! A huge change occurred inside the cosmos present within Tang Xiu's Dantian. The tens of millions of planets in it trembled all together, and innumerable threads of life source flowed towards all the planets. All the planets seemed to come alive as the life source poured into them and gained a weak life force. The entire cosmos inside his Dantian turned dark as the planets trembled again, and it almost seemed like space was about to collapse. However, the darkness shattered, and light re-emerged in the next moment. Following that, the space within the cosmos expanded at least 10 times larger than its size 240 years ago. According to Tang Xiu's observations, the size of his Dantian space was now equivalent to the size of 10 great immortal domains put together. This is the 4th stage of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, Star's Cosmos? According to the records, the space in the Dantian is only considered as a star's cosmos when all the planets inside obtain the source of life. However, it requires the nourishment of a long period to reach the formation stage and can take at least a few thousands of years, to tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years at most. I've only cultivated for a short amount of time, so how is it that I have already attained the formation stage of Star's Cosmos? Is it because of the god blood and marrow? Tang Xiu opened his eyes, and in the next instant, he disappeared from within the palace and appeared tens of kilometers up high in the sky. As he observed the boundless cosmos above him, his eyes glistened with a golden color. Divine power, heavenly net. Tang Xiu used the divine power he had obtained just now, and in the next instant, the world before his eyes no longer appeared the same to him. He saw densely packed lines of all kinds of gorgeous colors spanning across the entire void that seemed to form a special net. It almost seemed like this world had actually been designed based on these densely packed, multicolored lines. Are these the traces of the heavenly laws? Tang Xiu had once touched upon the locus of the heavenly laws back when he was a supreme in the immortal world. However, the locus he had seen back then was just a vague grayish line, a far stretch from the splendid and clear view before his eyes right now. Most importantly, he could sense the flow of all energies present within the world, so this would allow his strength to increase exponentially during a battle. Chapter 1399, A Terrifying Number of Supremes. While Tang Xiu was inside the palace, his whole body was filled with great energy. All sorts of different types of energy spanning thousands of kilometers away from him were all absorbed continuously into his body. The heavenly art of cosmic genesis undoubtedly surpasses all cultivation techniques in the immortal world. Although my power has seen tremendous growth, I'm only able to contend with an early-stage supremacy stage powerhouse. However, I can already see the loci of the heavenly laws this clearly. Unfortunately, the effects of God blood are already greatly ineffective. Otherwise, I would be able to return to the pinnacle within 200 years if I continued to train at this rate. It's time to take a break from training and prepare the divinity attainment pills. Tang Xiu stood up. When he stepped outside the palace, he froze slightly. This was because he saw that nearly half of the upper echelons of the Great Tang Empire were standing outside. Each of them had worried expressions on their faces. What's happening? Tang Xiu did not understand the meaning of this and asked. Ouyang Lulu quickly walked forward with her worried expression now dissipated from her face. She said, "You sealed yourself away for so long, and furthermore, all the immortal force energy within thousands of miles from here has all rushed into the palace. We were afraid that there was a problem with your cultivation, that's why we all came here to wait for you." Are you okay? Tang Xiu laughed and replied, "I'm okay. I'm very well. Everyone, go do your own things. I won't be in solitude to cultivate for the foreseeable future. I just need to refine some pills now." Yes. As the crowd proceeded to decrease in size, Tang Xiu looked at the few left. They were all Tang Xiu's women. They hadn't seen Tang Xiu in a while, so they obviously missed him a lot. It was only after Tang Xiu's reassurance and calming words that they were willing to leave and return to their homes. Master. The unbelievably beautiful Gu Yin was spectating from afar. She floated over to Tang Xiu with a leaf hanging from the side of her mouth. Not bad. Tang Xiu chuckled. You haven't even been training for 300 years, and you're already an Earth Immortal stage cultivator. A rapid growth rate such as yours is extremely rare even in the whole immortal world. Gu Yin laughed and replied, Master, at the most, I will be able to break through to the celestial immortal stage within the next 6 months. Tang Xiu happily replied, Not bad. Not bad at all. Gu Yin said, Master, my training speed is actually quite slow. Compared to Sister Yan, I'm so horrendously slow that it's shameful. You don't know this, but Sister Yan told me 6 months ago that with another 3 years of cultivation, she would be able to break through to the supremacy stage. Yinin also wants to become a supreme cultivator in the immortal world and also be able to assist my master. Tang Xiu chuckled and replied, Your master doesn't need your help. As long as you can happily cultivate and become stronger and stronger, there will be a day where you will be able to protect your loved ones. That will be sufficient. They continued to chat. Suddenly, the sky was filled with tribulation clouds, and thunder rumbled. When Tang Xiu raised his head and looked at the heavens, the edges of his face crawled into a bigger smile. This was already the 13th time seeing such a sight in the last 240 years. It looked like someone else was breaking through to the supremacy stage. It's senior sister. Gu Yin watched as a silhouette rushed into the sky and squealed in surprise and excitement. Tang Xiu watched Gu Yan in her white robes, floating in the air. He nodded his head and chuckled. Your senior sister is already a powerhouse in the perfected golden immortal stage. She's only a silver away from stepping into the supremacy stage. After a few hundred years of cultivation, not only did she recover her strength back to her peak, but she even broke through to the supremacy stage. Truly, the speed of her growth is extremely fast. With the help of the god blood and adding on to her potential, she should be able to pass the 49 heavenly tribulations with no difficulties. Looks like our great Tang Empire will be adding another supremacy stage powerhouse to our numbers. Whoosh. 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 Silhouettes suddenly appeared in front of Tang Xiu, as quickly as lightning. There were 16 of them in total, and all of them were supremacy stage powerhouses. Although there were only Old Sycamore and the Obsidian Immortal Father at the middle stage supremacy stage, many powerful cultivators in the supremacy stage still suddenly appeared at the same time. This was an extremely frightening and impressive sight that struck awe into all spectators. Obsidian Immortal Father's expression was a little complicated. He watched on as Gu Yan rushed towards the clouds and said, "The clouds are so incredibly thick. When she breaks through to the supremacy stage, she may already be a full-fledged early-stage supremacy stage cultivator. My lord, I don't admire many people. However, for you, I'm utterly in awe and have a deep respect for you. In just a short period of 200 to 300 years, our great Tang Empire already has so many supremacy stage cultivators. I dare say that in the whole immortal world, our great Tang Empire is definitely the strongest of all." Tang Xiu laughed and replied, "Obsidian Immortal Father, how rare it is that I'm able to experience your praises. However, these praises do make me feel quite nice." Obsidian Immortal Father laughed and replied, "When I first decided to follow my lord, I felt that your ambitions were too great. I felt that your targets and goals were simply impossible. How narrow-minded was I then? That's right, now that we have immense military power, is it time for us to destroy those enemies who you have named?" Tang Xiu calmly replied, "There's no rush. We still have 60 years until the 300-year deadline that I have set. In the next 60 years, we will continue to produce and train soldiers. Then, we will conquer the surrounding 6 immortal domains. This way, we will be able to establish the Great Tang Empire's territories. When that time comes, we will then mobilize our troops to eliminate those enemies that you speak of." Obsidian Immortal Father immediately nodded his head and replied, "I'm willing to be your vanguard. When I chose to serve you back then, the 6 lords of those immortal domains laughed at me countless times. When our great Tang Empire marches onto their territory, I want to see how they will react when that time comes." In the sky, Gu Yan wielded a 9th grade immortal artifact, and she used this artifact to destroy each lightning bolt that shot at her from the sky. For perfected golden immortal stage cultivators, the 49 heavenly tribulations were extremely dangerous. If they passed this, they would be able to become a powerhouse in the supremacy stage. If they failed, then they would disintegrate and disappear forever. Previously, out of 10,000 perfected golden immortal stage cultivators, only 1 out of 20 cultivators managed to pass the 49 heavenly tribulations. This was already an extremely impressive rate. However, for the perfected golden immortal stage cultivators in the Great Tang Empire, the success rate was 100%. Everyone knew that this was the effect of the god blood. After half a day, Gu Yan laughed as she watched the 49 heavenly tribulation recede. Her energy surged at an incredible rate. After half an hour, her energy was already many times her previous reserves. Whoosh! As quick as a lightning flash, Gu Yan appeared in front of Tang Xiu. With a broad smile on her face, she immediately gave Tang Xiu a big hug and said, "I once dreamed that I would be able to break through to the supremacy stage. Furthermore, I dreamt that at the moment that I broke through to the supremacy stage, you would be the first person that I saw. Now, my wish has truly been realized. Supremacy stage, what a great feeling." Tang Xiu lightly patted her back and laughed, saying, "Now that you have successfully stepped into the realm of the supremacy stage, you are now one of the most powerful cultivators in the whole immortal world. Give it a bit more time, when our great Tang Empire becomes even stronger, we will flip the immortal world by its heels and crush all our enemies when the 300 years have passed." "Yes." Gu Yan nodded her head enthusiastically. Tang Xiu released her and swept his gaze over those now 17 supremacy stage cultivators. Now with a serious expression on his face, he said, "Everyone. Since you have chosen to follow me and stay loyal to me, I will not neglect you. Although we, as the Great Tang Empire, can walk the immortal world with no fear, our goal is not to become the supreme rulers of the immortal world. My goal is to bring all of you to ascend into God realm and kill there." Obsidian Immortal Father chuckled and replied, "My lord, the divinity tribulation is too terrifying. The success rate is only 1 out of 100 supremacy stage cultivators. This success rate is already impressive. Even if we do have the god blood with us, I'm afraid that. Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. He calmly replied, "You're correct. The god blood is beneficial when assisting perfected golden immortal stage cultivators to break through to the supremacy stage. However, to multiply our chances of passing the divinity tribulation by many folds, there would need to be other things too. From today onwards, I will begin refining the divinity attainment pills. You should all have heard of this pill. When all the supremacy stage powerhouses in our great Tang Empire have achieved the late stage supremacy stage, then I will give all of you one divinity attainment pill. I once was able to successfully pass the divinity tribulation by my own strength. Therefore, I will be able to help you all pass the divinity tribulation as well." Obsidian Immortal Father replied with a surprised expression on his face. "You have previously passed the divinity tribulation? Furthermore, you succeeded? How is that possible? If you really passed the divinity tribulation, then why aren't you in the god realm right now?" Tang Xiu chuckled lightly and released his primal chaos force, binding the 17 in front of him and bringing them into the palace without a single one of them resisting. Tang Xiu sat on the 9 Dragons Cathedra and said, "I believe that most of you are wondering about my true identity. Obsidian Immortal Father, am I correct?" Obsidian Immortal Father was in deep thought and replied with a nod, "You're correct, my lord. Your strength is something that I have not seen in my life. All the upper echelons of the great Tang Empire know that we have great nemesis in the immortal world. Furthermore, all of those enemies are also enemies of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Adding to that, Star Tears is also part of that holy sect. And Apotheon Bella is also someone that the Star Cultivation Great Emperor greatly cares for. Therefore, we suspect that even if you aren't part of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, you surely must have a deep connection to them." Tang Xiu looked at Apotheon Mu, Apotheon Myriad Notes, Soaring Plum, 9 Immortal Fingers, and Enchantress Yu, then calmly laughed and replied, "Now, you can tell them. How should you refer to me?" The 5 of them looked at each other with excitement in their eyes. They immediately knelt in front of Tang Xiu and simultaneously said, "Your disciples pay respect to the master." What? Chapter 1400, Complete Shock. Besides Gu Yan, all the other supremacy stage cultivators were shocked and in complete disbelief. They all knew who Apotheon Myriad Notes, Apotheon Mu, and the others were. They previously thought that these were only powerful people from the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, who Tang Xiu had accepted into the empire. It was unbelievable that they would call Tang Xiu master. The master of these 5 people was the one once widely feared in the immortal world, the Star Cultivation Great Emperor. However, the Star Cultivation Great Emperor had failed to pass the divinity tribulation, which led to the breaking and disintegrating of his spirit. Tang Xiu slowly stood up, signaled for the other 5 to stand as well, then said, "Your eyes are not mistaken. Your ears are not mistaken either. I'm the master of these 5 people. Yes, I was once the supreme prodigy in the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, who was feared throughout the immortal world as a powerhouse in the supremacy stage. Yes. I'm the Star Cultivation Great Emperor." Star Cultivation Great Emperor? Obsidian Immortal Father and the rest of the supremacy stage cultivators all had an expression of absolute shock and awe. They had wondered and suspected countless times of Tang Xiu's identity. However, they did not expect that he would be the Star Cultivation Great Emperor himself. A great chill and piercing light shot from Tang Xiu's eyes as he spoke. He said, "You have all heard of my history. Furthermore, you should all know that I once had 2 friends who I was extremely close to. One is the great Emperor Dan Qing of the Inner Pill Sect, and the other is Zither Demon Jiuyao of the Everlasting Palace. It was these 2 close friends of mine who struck me fatally while I was at my weakest state after passing the divinity tribulation. If it wasn't for a fragment of my soul that traveled to another world and revived me, my soul would definitely have been broken into fragments and disintegrated. I have decided to tell you this because the day of retribution is nearly upon us. I have not recovered back to the peak of my strength as of now. However, I'm still able to contend with middle-stage supremacy stage cultivators. After another 60 years, though, I'm confident that I will be able to easily kill these same middle-stage supremacy stage cultivators. After a long time, Obsidian Immortal Father finally spoke after letting the news that the Great Tang Emperor was also the Star Cultivation Great Emperor sink in. He said, "No wonder the most affectionate woman in the immortal world, Apotheon Immortal Bella, became your woman, my lord. No wonder Apotheon Mu and the rest are so loyal to you to the point where they would give their lives for you. No wonder the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect is in imminent danger right now. No wonder your power has grown in leaps and bounds. No wonder you constantly sent people and resources to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect for them to train and cultivate." Nethersea Whale King, who was now a supremacy stage cultivator, also breathed a deep sigh and said, "All the powerhouses in the immortal world know that you were once great friends with the great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jiuyao. However, during the time that you disappeared, they attacked the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect relentlessly. These two shameless brats. We will follow you and beat these scums to the ground and let them regret their births." Tang Xiu, fully satisfied now, nodded and said, "Everyone. I have now told you my greatest secret. I hope that you can keep this to yourselves." Without a doubt. Everyone present while Tang Xiu revealed his true identity immediately swore an immortal oath. The days following after. Besides Gu Yan, the other 16 supremacy stage powerhouses were split into 6 forces. Each force was armed with 2 or 3 supremacy stage powerhouses. Each of these forces was used to attack the surrounding 6 immortal domains. 4 of these 6 domains did not have supremacy stage cultivators, so within a couple of years, these 4 domains were conquered. The other 2 immortal domains had supremacy stage cultivators to protect them. However, under the fierce and powerful hand of the Great Tang Emperor, they were all killed. 2 years later. Now the Great Tang Empire had 10 immortal domains under its rule. 20 years later. The Great Tang Empire had fortified all 10 of their conquered territories heavily, making them virtually impenetrable. 50 years later. There was an addition to the ranks of perfected golden immortal stage cultivators. Besides Apotheon Immortal Bella and Tang Xiu himself, there were now 18 supremacy stage powerhouses in the Great Tang Empire. There were also now 20 military forces, with 5 million immortals in each force. With this, there were a total of exactly 100 million immortals in the Great Tang Empire's fighting forces. 100 million. These were only the soldiers specializing in fighting alone. Each of them had countless experiences in battles under their belts, as well as the harsh trials and tests that they had to go through in training. There were also other types of soldiers, such as the soldiers specialized in healing, logistics, and other fields, including weaponry and armory. All of these soldiers would add up to a number that exceeded 30 million immortals. During these 50 years. Besides training every day, Tang Xiu had constantly been refining divinity attainment pills. For the sake of refining these pills, the Great Tang Empire's resources had been cleared and sucked dry. Fortunately, they had conquered the 6 immortal domains, which gave them an abundance of treasures and wealth. This was how they managed to keep the empire afloat despite the draining of their own resources. In these 50 years, the few supremacy stage powerhouses in the immortal world came and visited Tang Xiu. They had 2 goals. Firstly, they were there to scout and gather information about the Great Tang Empire's situation. Secondly, they also hoped to build a favorable relationship with Tang Xiu and the empire. The 46th pill. Tang Xiu immediately absorbed the recently refined divinity attainment pill into his interspatial ring. While doing so, his face was lit up in delight. When he walked out of the alchemy chamber, he saw Gu Yan, who had been waiting for a while. "Master, there's a guest." "He's already been waiting for 9 days, Gu Yan said. Tang Xiu looked around, then asked, which supreme is it? Gu Yan replied, he called himself Supreme Purgatory. He didn't say where he was from, though. That aside, he's quite strong. At the very least, he's a lot stronger than me. Tang Xiu squinted his eyes, then nodded and said, take me to him. Once upon a time. Tang Xiu hadn't heard of this Supreme Purgatory before. This was something that he found interesting and was curious about. If this Supreme was someone who had broken into the supremacy stage in the last millennium, then it would be impossible for him to be stronger than Gu Yan. Therefore, this supremacy stage cultivator was hiding from the public eye. Tang Xiu wanted to meet this person and understand where he came from. Inside the palace. When Tang Xiu saw Supreme Purgatory, he immediately sized him up. Then, he calmly laughed and said, you must be Supreme Purgatory. Supreme Purgatory smiled and replied, you must be the great Tang Emperor. Tang Xiu nodded and replied, that's right. I am. Since you have arrived in our great Tang Empire, you should introduce yourself and say where you are from, should you not? Supreme Purgatory continued smiling and replied, Convict Arena. Supreme Purgatory. Tang Xiu was shocked when he heard this. He knew a lot about the convict arena, but he didn't know much about the powerful figures behind the convict arena. Since this Supreme Purgatory in front of him claimed to be from the convict arena, Tang Xiu could not neglect him. I have never heard of a Supreme Purgatory. Looks like you have hidden quite well. If I'm correct in my guess, you should be the real power controlling the convict arena in this era. Am I correct? Tang Xiu asked. Supreme Purgatory smiled and replied, that's right. I'm the one who controls the convict arena in this era. Tang Xiu nodded, then asked, why did Supreme Purgatory visit us? Supreme Purgatory calmly replied, I only wanted to confirm something. That's why I came. I also hope that the great Tang Emperor can explain. Go ahead. Tang Xiu signaled for Supreme Purgatory to sit. Supreme Purgatory said, the great Tang Empire has only been established in the immortal world for around 1,000 years. However, in such a short time, you have already conquered 10 immortal domains. What a powerful army. I wanted to ask if the great Tang Emperor is aiming to conquer the whole of the immortal world? Tang Xiu shook his head and said, my great Tang Empire will not invade recklessly anymore. However, we will reclaim our old territories. Furthermore, there are also enemies of our empire, so we will eliminate them. Therefore, once we do that, their territories will become one of the great Tang empires. Supreme Purgatory paused, smiled, then replied, since the great Tang Emperor does not plan to completely conquer the immortal world, then you must not have the ambition to become the only emperor in this world, then. I'm relieved. My convict arena has dwelled in the immortal world for countless years and is extremely powerful. However, we don't have the ambition to conquer the immortal world either. Therefore, as long as the great Tang Empire does not make things difficult for us, then we will not fight the great Tang Empire either. Who knows? Maybe we will be able to work together for many things in the future. Perhaps we will be able to help each other. Tang Xiu nodded his head and replied, if Supreme Purgatory thinks like this, then we don't need to wait until the future to work together. We can already work together now. Supreme Purgatory was surprised. He asked, how does the great Tang Emperor plan to work together with us? Tang Xiu calmly replied, according to what I know, there are many deathmatch gladiators in the convict arena. The great Tang Empire requires a lot more soldiers, so we have been recruiting and hiring. If the convict arena can send a group of deathmatch gladiators, then please allow us to owe you that money for a short while. When the time comes, then I will give you 1% more as interest. What do you think? Is this to your liking? The smile was beginning to disappear from Supreme's Purgatory face. He said, is the great Tang Emperor trying to gain valuable assets with worthless things? Tang Xiu continued to smile and replied, that's not what I'm trying to do. In a small world where I was once in, there are places called banks. This is similar to the money shops that they have in the normal citizens of the immortal world. However, I have taken a great liking to this form of borrowing money. As for the deathmatch gladiators in the convict arena, besides dying, they would only win the bets of the gamblers. However, if you have too many deathmatch gladiators, then you might as well sell us a group of them. Supreme Purgatory raised his hand, smiled, and replied, "Great Tang Emperor, I understand. If it wasn't for an event that occurred a few hundred years ago, I would be able to help you out here. Unfortunately, not only do we not have excess deathmatch gladiators, but we are severely lacking in them. Therefore, I also have something to discuss with the Great Tang Emperor. In the future, if the Great Tang Empire is fighting strong enemies, you can sell the captured people to the convict arena. We will definitely pay a high price for them." Tang Xiu looked at him with a puzzled look and replied, "What happened a few hundred years ago? What happened to the convict arena? I remember that the convict arena from before did not lack deathmatch gladiators at all. Furthermore, I have even bought a few deathmatch gladiators from you to bolster my forces previously."